Tyrone May coming off with a minor knock in the derby. Is he all right?
Yeah, Tyrone's okay. There's a few knocks and players that we need to have a look at later in the week to make a decision. So we'll see where it's at then.
Okay. Which players are 50-50 at the moment?
There's Dean Hadley's got a tight calf. So he's one that we need to monitor and have a look at. Obviously, there's Ollie Gildart that needs to get through some other protocols. So I'm not sure whether he'll play at this stage. Joe Burgess has got an issue. So there's a few there.
Obviously, Ollie Gildart was the main one, given how scary it was with him coming off. Is he progressing all right with his HIA?
Yeah, he is. He's just got to. Yeah, we just got to make sure that he's symptom free. So again, we'll know a little bit more later on in the week.
I guess in the longer term as well, George King was 6 weeks when he had his scan. Is he progressing as expected with his hamstring?
Yeah, George is doing okay. It's obviously early-ish, isn't it? It's only a couple of weeks into since he's had his injury, so he's doing okay. He's not running obviously, and he's not part of the team. So, but so far so good with George. He's doing everything he can.
Any other injury concerns out of the derby, or was that everything?
I think that's everything I think that's everything.
As in, looking at your injuries so far this season, it seems that you've had a better time of it than a lot of other teams. There's a lot fewer serious injuries in your squad. Do you put that down to anything, or is it just luck?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't like to give it too much. It's rugby league. You can have injuries. So I'm not going to give it too much. No disrespect, but it's one of those that don't. You can have many injuries 1 week, and then you might not have any for a while. We're going okay at the moment. So, as I say, no disrespect, but I don't want to go there.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to jinx it. Looking over the last 3 games, I think you've averaged over 32 points in attack. Are you starting to see your side click going forward now?
Yeah, definitely. Initially it's about looking at combinations, who's the best, what are the best combinations, and then naturally it takes time. We did have quite a few new players this year, and some new players in key positions. So, they're finding their feet now, and I'm really excited to see where our attack can go. I still think it's only early stages, and there's no doubt there's a lot more in our attack in terms of progression and where we want to get to. But we've certainly the last sort of few weeks we've shown signs of what, or the players have shown signs of what they can do. But I'll put that down to we've built a lot more pressure. I know, cliche, but we've had high completion rates, but we've still asked a lot of questions, and that's what I like about our attack at the moment. We're not just one out carries to try and get an 85-90% completion. We're asking a lot of questions with the ball, and especially in that first half. We dropped off a little bit in the second half with some of the things that we valued in attack in the first half, and I'd like to see us fix that up this week.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's you're looking to develop a complexity in attack rather than just simple get to the end and look at your last tackle options. Is that right? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the opposition give you cues, whether, as I say, like there's a range of different cues that we look at, opposition defences, and then we want to play, eyes up. It's a cliche sort of terminology, but play what we see. So they've got a license to do that, but we want to have discipline within that. We've always spoken about that. We never talk about going out to offload, but we definitely work on other areas that can incorporate an offload. And then if someone else is in a better position, we look to play, and we'll continue to do that. So it's, I've been involved in teams before where you talk about completions and all you get is one out carries, and then you ask no questions, and you're not getting any points off the back of it. So, we need to find that balance. But certainly, when we have completed high, we've certainly found ourselves on the right end of the scoreboard. So it does help, but we still want to ask, as I say, ask the defensive line questions each set.
I remember last season, you divided it up into chunks almost, with the first third being up to Easter. Are you approaching this season in a similar way in splitting it into sections?
Oh, we haven't looked at it internally. Like, we haven't broken it up too much internally, but you certainly get to a stage where I think you need to. We just got areas that we value, which we stick to every week, and we look at those and we either achieve those or we haven't, or what areas do we need to work on out of those, and that's all we're looking at the moment, week by week. So it's there's certainly periods in a year though that you do want to look and chunk games up. We haven't done that as such at the moment. But certainly sort of mid-year, when you do get different clumps or games that are important or whatever it may be, then you may start to look at it there. But we're just focusing on London this week.
I know you just say you're only focusing on London, but from our perspective, looking at the next 6 games, it's a very interesting period because obviously you've got London, a team which, with all due respect, you are favourites against, and then a Challenge Cup final rematch, and then the 4 after that are against the top 4 sides in the league at the moment. How do you view this period of 6 games coming up, or is it you literally are just focusing on London?
Yeah, we are, and then we'll just focus on the Challenge Cup. Then you may look at a block. Then we may say if we're playing. I mean, if you guys are calling the best teams in the comp, then we'll focus on that. Or possibly, I don't know. To be honest, I haven't looked that far. Like, this game's extremely important to us, like every game is. I've looked thoroughly, or we've looked thoroughly, the whole coaching staff have looked thoroughly into London, and they ask a lot of questions. When you look at their attack, they've got really nice shape and ask a lot of questions, and we need to be on defensively like we have been. And then with the ball, we need to, as I say, ask some questions of them, and then put some fatigue in them. But that's our focus is Friday night. It's an important game after a derby. We want to pride ourselves in being up again after a derby because some teams, may drop intensity after they have a spike, with a derby game. But, we pride ourselves in making sure that we stay to the levels that we want to be at.
Especially as well, because you said in our post-match with Richard Stead last week that the build-up to the derby, it had all that derby emotion, but the added emotion around Phil Lowe's passing and the commemorations around that. So it was a really emotional week within the camp. How are you making sure that there's no psychological come-down or side effect from such an emotional week?
Yeah, well, we gave the players 3 days off. Initially it was 2 days, or they had some recovery in there. We gave them 3 days off, and they deserve that. They've earned that, and was back to work today. So that was, we made sure as a group that we set our standards high, and we lived up to them. So the players certainly did that. We had a positive session then, and that's what it was about. It's a next job mentality now. So. Last week is gone. Obviously, it was an emotional week, but the players had 3 days to spend with their families and, do what they needed to do away from Craven Park. And I saw players yesterday at the gym. They were doing recovery, and I just went out to the local gym myself. So it was really pleasing to see. So that's how I know that we've got an engaged group who know, when they're away from the club, that they know what it's like, what it takes to be professional.
You mentioned London's attack there. They have shown this year that they are capable of doing some real damage going forward. I think they put 22 past Wigan and over 30 past Hull FC. Is this game against London one of the ones where you're focusing just as much on your points conceded, given how much importance you do put on defence, rather than as well as your points scored?
Yeah, well, every week we focus on our defence. We've got all our KPIs are based around our defence, so that's what we'll focus on again this week. Salford we ended up scoring 40 points, but a lot of that was what we did with our defence and the pressure that we built with our defence. So you seem to be able to pile points on when you defend well. You look at the games in the weekend, Catalans and Warrington, 2 very, very good teams, and obviously, 2 of the best in Wigan and Saints. One game was all about the defence, and the other one was attack, and a lot of points scored. There's no doubt both coaches in the Warrington and Catalans game wouldn't have been happy with the points conceded. That's what the best teams do. The best teams defend well, and that's what we aim to do, and that's the level that we want to be at. I think the St Helens game and the Wigan game was a really good example of what the best teams in the competition are about, and it's about the defence.
Final one for me, on something else. There's been calls this week to introduce breaks for iftar during Ramadan for players. Is that something you've got any opinion on or anything?
So, no, look, I don't have an opinion. I mean, obviously, I respect everyone. You know, what in terms of if they choose with their religious beliefs and all that sort of stuff. But no, I don't have an opinion on it. As I say, like we respect. There's guys in our team that that are doing Ramadan as well. So we respect anyone's religion and what they choose. But the decisions made around that are out of my hands, around whether we have a break. I haven't heard. So you're saying a break in terms of a week off, or?
No. Is in a break in the game. If a player's breaking iftar during a match, like I think Nene McDonald's done it, and a couple of the London players as well. Kind of like a water break if it was a really high temperature, just like a minute, so players can break their fast if it's during the middle of a game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'll let the RFL make decisions around that, but I support individuals and what they do, and we've got many players in our team that have different religious beliefs, and we support them all.
Cool, thank you, Willie. I'll pass you on to Matt.
Cheers.
Hi, Willie. Hope you're well.
Hey, Matt. Good, you mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Just a little bit more on this weekend, because you go into it, and with the greatest respect to London, everyone expects you to win and win handsomely. And I think that, that's the case. Most teams are encountering this at the minute. How do you approach the week? Are there any changes that you make to a normal week because it's London, or does your selection look different because it's them? Because I know that, I don't think coach has said this publicly, but the whole workloads thing and the amount of time that players can spend on the fields in a season might be a good time to try and use this fixture, but then you don't want to disrespect them, do you? So how do you sort of approach it all?
Yeah, well, firstly, your standards need to be as high as they've ever been, because we're playing against a team. Well, what I see and what our coaching staff see, that they're a hungry team. They're looking for that first win, and they fight. They keep fighting. They haven't given up in games, and that's what they'll come up here and do. So, from our point of view, if we're going in as favourites, well, we need to look after ourselves and get ourselves right. So if we lower any of our standards, a team like London will come up here and are capable of beating us. So you look at when they played FC last time, it was a tight game, and they were in it to the end. Obviously, FC scored that last try. They could do that to any team. So what we need to control is us, and make sure that we get our end right. And how do you get your end right? Is by training to the standards that we trained at today, having the level of input in our video like they did today, doing the recovery that they normally do. So everything needs to be consistent. In terms of the team and what that looks like, we need to look at, as I said, there are some niggles there. So there's possibly one or two that may not play, or we make a decision later on. But we're certainly going in this with a strong team and our best team available. We're not looking to. It's round 7, round 8. We want to keep the momentum that we've got. But as I said, there's a lot to like of what London have done, even though they haven't won games. They've certainly been in a lot of games, and I think Huddersfield will be, the first 25, 30 minutes, they scored a kick try, Huddersfield. If they didn't score that, then who knows what happens till half time, and then off the back of scoreboard pressure, who knows what happens after that. But Huddersfield knuckled down and come out in that second half and probably, ran a little bit harder and worked harder for each other than what they did in that first half, and then come away with the result. So we need to do that from the start to the end.
You've said all along that let's judge teams after 10 games. That's a good time to, you've got a fair sample size to have a look. So you're only 7 games in, so I'm not going to ask you how you think you're tracking at the minute, but between now and that 10th game, is there an area in particular that you'd like to see improved so that you could be a lot more confident in your own mind about where you're at, how you're tracking, what you can achieve by the end of the year?
I think it's just mainly improving, mate. Like we need to, I think you look at the Warrington game, into the Huddersfield game, we improved there. Into the Salford game, we improved there. Into large parts of last week, we improved a lot in that first half. The second half, watching it, we weren't too far off. There was some things that we didn't value as much as what we did in that first half. If we did value it, we possibly get another couple of tries, and then there's a little bit more scoreboard, not so much scoreboard pressure. The game's probably gone for them, and then we can build a little more pressure off the back. So we've spoken about we need to value the things that we value. We need to value it for longer periods, and it doesn't matter who you play, conditions you play in. You need to be consistent with that. So the key for us now is just keep improving. If we keep improving, then we'll be in a decent spot round 10. But more importantly, if you keep improving, then you'll be in a great spot come the back of the year.
I think John Wilkin after the game made a comment about ruthlessness, clinicalness, doing it for longer. Is that sort of what you're alluding to? Do you think what he was sort of getting at was a fair comment after that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fair comment. For me, like we weren't so where we were ruthless was, if we had an offload, and then we had guys in a genuine pass option, being in a position to make something happen. Pretty much every offload in that first half, we'd scored a try off the back of it. In the second half, we had Matt Parcell jumping out of dummy half and no one pushing up into a hole. That's not ruthless. Being ruthless is doing the same as what you did, because the same gaps were there and the same opportunities were presented, but we weren't ruthless enough to take advantage of that. So I agree with John, and I'm sure the players would agree as well that there were some moments in that second half that we need to be more ruthless and then we possibly win that game more comfortably. But I like what we did in that first half. There was a lot to like there. We just need to combine that now.
I just wanted to ask you about the right edge, because we've spoken loads about combinations and we've spoke a little bit about Ryan Hall and Oliver Gilbert, but that right edge had a lot of joy. And it's relatively new even still, because, Petter's only just nicely moved there and Joe's not played every game. But was that an encouraging sign for you? I know that Batch has spoke about wanting to be better in attack, and he obviously had a bit of joy and so on and so forth. So how do you think that combination is coming on? As a whole collective, so it's not just two players, it's 3, 4, 5 players.
Yeah, I really like what we saw. I think obviously now that Pet's back in the centres, he's a lot more comfortable. We've got a centre playing at centre. We've got a winger in Joe, who's a winger playing on the wing where Niall was playing there at the start of the year. So there's no doubt from a personnel point of view and guys that have played in those positions, they feel more comfortable. So. I like what Tyrone's doing. Tyrone sort of floats around the field, is in that our middle half who can float on both sides. But to attack and to be a good attacking side or a great attacking side, you need to have options on both sides of the ruck. You'll find a lot of teams might be strong on that left-hand side, for example, because that's most players find it comfortable to pass from right to left. Well, we need to balance that out. You need to be a genuine threat on both sides of the ruck, and when you've got that, then you're a hard team to defend. So I'm liking what we're seeing. I like what we saw last week. It'll only get better. There's no doubt about that. And once they play, more and more with each other, they'll start understanding combinations. Like when, Petter come back, we went through and past the Batch scores that try. Petter dropped under. It wasn't planned. They're the best tries that are scored because it's unstructured. It's eyes up. It's if someone comes in your lane, well, you know to drop under. Sometimes that takes a while to understand what players are doing. Like Mikey Lewis, for example, sometimes he doesn't know what he's doing. So how's someone else going to know what he's doing around him? But the more that Kalepi plays with him, he'll get an understanding of what Mikey's trying to do, and then they'll get better as well on that left-hand side. So, yeah, as I said, with the attack, I'm happy where it's going. It's certainly not the finished product.
How important is Batch to that edge from an attacking perspective? Because we know how much he does defensively and his work rate and his efforts, and that's undisputed. But even he said, he wants to be more involved. He wants to be more of a threat. And with what you're trying to do structurally, how much of a role does he have to play in that becoming a success and becoming important?
Yeah, I want Batch to be more involved with our attack. You look at back rollers and carries. There was a stat years ago. It was a crazy stat. Where back rowers at a club I was at, if they had sort of 12 plus carries, your attack we end up winning the game just from that stat alone. And purely was because the back rowers were helping middles and they had to do less work. But it just flowed. It means that we're hitting halves. Like we were spotting up who we needed to spot up. I want to see Batch getting the ball in his hands. We spoke again after training, and I think he's certainly improving with his attack. But, the more that he can get the ball one-on-one, running at halves, I think we're going to have a lot more joy, simply just getting quick play of the balls, or, Batch's offload might come into play, but I certainly want him ball playing as well. I don't want him just being that inside shoulder type back rower. I want him being able to play a little bit when he sees fit, getting some early ball when it's on. But the more that Batch can get the ball, and Kaleppi on the other side, and if Dean's playing there, you often find that your attack structurally is going the right way.
And just finally, you mentioned, the unstructured tries, the eyes up tries. Do you reckon that right edge has even potentially more potential to do that than the left edge, given the players? I know Mikey's got those talents to make something out of nothing, but you look at Petter with the offloads and you look at Tyrone and what he brings. Do you think that edge has the potential to be really unpredictable and to score those off the cuff, those eyes up tries, potentially even more than the left?
No, I don't. I think the right just chose to do it more than the left. I think there was opportunities there for the left hand side as well, but they chose not to push, and a lot of it was in the second half, was around our left-hand side, to be honest. So if they pushed, they're the ones that I'm alluding to. If they pushed like that right side did in the first half, we get guaranteed another couple of tries. So, if you have a look at, say, Kaleppi, Mikey, if Ollie Gildart's playing there, they've got speed, they've got footwork, and they can offload themselves, so they can cause a lot of teams trouble with unstructured type rugby. So I think, mate, to be honest, they just made the choice not to get themselves in the game. Where this week I want to see them off some offloads and get excited like that right side did, because that's all it was. That was the difference. The right side. There's no difference in terms of talent and what, say Kaleppi can do compared to, say, Batch on the other side. Kaleppi's probably got a little bit more, doesn't he? Like footwork, where, Mikey's got a lot more footwork and his speed than, say, Tyrone. Petter's pretty similar to Ollie, or if Tom plays there, but they both got feet and they're both, Ollie's very quick. And if that's Tom on the left-hand side, Tom's shown that he can beat players as well. So, yeah, I know I'm going around in circles here, but it was pretty much a choice.